As far as his business, there's no plan B. I'm not planning to ever go back to Wall Street. And any entrepreneur who, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're selling and what you're creating, you have to be beyond all in, because there cannot be a plan B for you. And those, the most successful entrepreneurs, whether it's Musk or Jeff, I guarantee if you ask them when they first started, they didn't have a plan B. It was just like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to stop till it works, and that's it.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Growth and Scaling Podcast. And I today have brought a little bit of an unusual guest on, and I say that in a loving way. Tom, will you tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Tom Samuelson. I am the founder of the BRON Investor Network. I call it the first network of a social network community that links public companies and investors directly.
I love it. I love it. Now, why in the world would I say this is an unusual company? Because you're talking to what audience? I mean, who are you hitting today? Who do you want to hear this? Who's your audience?
It's I would have said, maybe a couple of years ago when we first were putting this together, that our audience, because of the growth and the explosion in amount of people, we call the Robin Hood generation, I thought my audience would be just primarily these Robin Hood traders who don't have any information. But from what we gather, because we're a global company and we're not only in the U.S., we're in South America and other places. I mean, our audience, is 16 to 65. So it's anybody interested in investing, even the people that say would normally maybe just buy a fund or something. They're interested in learning what these companies do and being educated. So our age group is just as wider than we ever thought it would be. It's incredible.
I love it. I love it. So tell us what you do. I mean, this sounds cool. I mean, but what really are you solving here? Is it just the separation between an investor who wants to buy a stock in a publicly traded company and they just don't get what the company does? I mean, help us out here.
Yeah, so it goes back to sort of my background as a 30 plus years on Wall Street, and then also as a 20 plus years as a hedge fund investor, investing all over the world. And seeing that we've always had these middlemen, what we call middlemen, banks and brokers, and what they're biased. The information they put out is certainly biased to what they want you to see. Just like, for example, a lot of the social network companies, you log into Instagram or LinkedIn and you get what they want you to see, not what you want to see. So the bottom line is companies and investors around the world want to have this connection directly. And so obviously in a digital world, we decided to, instead of doing a database or some kind of website, to put this in the form of a social media. And why? Everyone, as you know, today and in the future is getting all their information from social type apps. They're not going to websites anymore. They're not subscribing to $30,000 a year Bloomberg. It's too expensive. So they're getting their information almost as fast, if not faster, than the professionals on Twitter and other places. So that's a trend that's not going to stop. So we decided to structure our app in the form of a social network to be, to be where everyone is today and where everyone is going, because the numbers are just getting larger and larger as the population gets younger and younger. So the bottom line is what we're trying to solve is there are many, because, traditional Wall Street, traditional finance has shrunk dramatically. And there are more companies than ever. There are more investors than ever. A lot of companies, 80% of the companies around the world have been orphaned. They don't have research. They don't have support. So we're here to supply this support and help them, engage and get in front of as many investors as possible and increase transparency, which in a sense increases volumes and it helps everyone.
Wow. Okay. I love it. So tell us about your client acquisition. I mean, are you tapping into existing resources of databases, or are you tapping into members of these organizations, of these publicly traded companies to chime in? I mean, are they communicating? You talk in social network. Are they talking back and forth to people asking them questions, or what does this look like?
No, so we're venturing where no man has gone before in a sense, because traditionally these companies only talk to the biggest of the biggest investors. They don't know how
Exactly.
to communicate with the Robin Hood generation and the middle, family offices, smaller type funds, whatever. So
Totally.
we're giving them that tool to enable them to engage with all investors of all different sizes. And how we get there is part of the journey. Is that we have been able and lucky enough to partner with a number of stock exchanges in Europe and
Right.
South America. I mean, I think we probably have more partnerships and joint ventures with stock than anybody else out there. And it's something that it takes a long time, but what it
Yeah.
does, it helps you grow. It helps you scale faster. It helps you grow faster because you
Right.
get instant credibility. And we're not interested like the Wall Street banks and maybe the top 5 or 10% of the biggest companies. We're interested in
Right.
all the companies. If there's 2,000 listed companies on New York Stock Exchange, we want all 2,000 a part of our network. We don't care about the top
Right.
100. Well, we care about them, but we're not going to focus only
Yeah.
on
Yeah. Yeah.
large companies.
Okay. All
So
right.
it's a
So,
to use one word that's thrown around a lot. It's democratization on both sides, both on the investor side and the corporate side.
okay. I like that. I like that. So, but what I was going to get into too is because you're investor side and you're the company side, you're targeting two different people in your marketing, aren't you? I mean, you're trying to attract investors and say, hey, come use this resource. And you're trying to invest the company saying, hey, here's the best of the information. Here's the latest stuff going on.
So
Go to
Todd,
town with it.
you hit the nail on the head. This is what they call for any startup the classic chicken or the egg, right? So we have exactly. So we have on one side are the corporates, which are our real clients. They're the ones who pay us, and then we have on the other side we have two other clients, which are the large investors, institutions, and also the individual investors. So when we decided to attack this problem, it was a chicken
Yeah.
or the egg problem because the investors won't go into an app that has no content. On the other side,
Right.
the corporates won't participate in that has no investors. So we had to
Right.
attack this chicken or the egg problem by essentially financing and making sure the app was initially full of a lot of content. So we
Right.
financed that part of the chicken or the egg to bring the
Gotcha.
investors, and then the idea is obviously to gain this networking effect, which everyone strives for. So we have a
Everyone
classic
wants
chicken or
it.
the egg, exactly.
Everybody wants to network. Everyone wants to talk to people who are talking about the same thing they're talking about, right? So this is great. This is great. Now that we understand what your business does and who is targeting and who it helps, talk to us about your business. I mean, we want to know about this growth journey that you've been on and how you've been able to pull this together, some highlights. Are there a lot of people have a hard time transitioning from being as corporate and as high level as you've been down into holy crap, this is how businesses start. How has that been for you?
It was. I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset. I mean, even when I worked in finance, I was always one of these jobs, eat what you kill kind of thing. But
Right,
certainly, it
right,
was to give up the kind of compensation I was used to making for many years was very
right.
difficult. I was fortunate, obviously, in my corporate journey, but I had this inkling. And when I decided I actually started the company while I was still in asset management. And then when things started to
Good.
move, I decided to make that jump. And
Smart.
the one advice that I give any entrepreneur, and again, looking at me, I'm certainly someone who's not a traditional entrepreneur. I'm
Right.
late. I'm not going to tell you my age, Todd, but I'm not, age wise, I'm
At
up
least
there in the
35.
But what you have to understand is, and everyone asks me like, how did you do it? Like, and I'm like, the one thing is, and this is very controversial, is you can't have a plan B. I say it to people. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you can't. You can if you have a plan B, you're already accepting defeat. And so,
Right.
I'm a little bit fortunate because I have some, financial, things behind me. But as far as this business, there's no plan B. I'm not planning to ever go back to Wall Street.
Right.
I'm
Right.
so, and any entrepreneur who, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're selling and what you're creating, you have to be beyond all in because there
Right.
cannot be a plan B for you. And the most successful entrepreneurs, whether it's Musk or Jeff, I guarantee if you ask them when they first started, they didn't
Yeah.
have a plan B. It was just like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm not going
Yeah.
to stop till it works, and that's it.
Right. Running a business, honestly, can leave a lot of founders and operators feeling lonely and isolated. If you have ever felt that way, trust me, I know what it feels like. And there is something you can do about it. You've heard a lot of our guests talk about the fact that being lonely and isolated is one of their biggest challenges in trying to run and scale their business. captainscouncil.com. Go to captainscouncil.com right now and see what we're doing to resolve this problem. We want you to be a strong operator who has solutions and has a way to get around the challenges you're currently facing. What most founders don't understand is that you're not alone. The challenges that you're facing, likely somebody else has already overcome, and they can give you the feedback you need to overcome them. Who better than your peers, other founders, other operators who are joining with you in a small group setting, a global community setting, as well as at our in-person events to guide you through these challenges that you're facing right now. Don't give up, keep on pushing, but do it with some good advice from your peers. Go check it out at captainscouncil.com and let me know what you think about the offering. We can't wait to see you there. I totally agree. I totally agree. That being said, though, you can have a plan A-1, which are the slight pivots. I mean, Jeff Bezos
100%.
started a book selling company, right? And he went and said, oh, hey, there's a -1 here, and there's probably a -2. So I think that what you're saying is exactly the type of language most entrepreneurs understand, which is, I'm going to launch this, and I'm going to see what people are willing to pay for this thing. And if it's working, I'm already in. I'm going all in, and I'm pushing all the way. But if there's not a taker, then you got to figure out what that person wants to take. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we've already had a pivot. So to give you an example, when I first started this company, again, the idea was a technology, was inputting technology into this communications, into the communication to investors and companies. So in 2017, we really launched the company as a video. So we introduced video as a way for investors to connect with companies directly. This was very early in the days of video. Obviously, everyone laughs about it now, but nobody was using video. Maybe less than 1% of meetings between companies and large investors were using video. We started this, it was going well, and then obviously the pandemic hit and it was a boom. It's still, video is still now the main, has become, went from 1% of meetings to 100%. Now it's back down to, let's say, 50, 60%. It's never going back down to 1%. It's going to stay very high because video is just too efficient. So, but then we pivoted because we realized that video was commoditized, right? We had our own proprietary video platform. No one wants to pay a lot of money for a video platform because Zoom is $40 or whatever. Microsoft Teams is $4 a month. So there's no money in it. So we pivoted to this. We had already begun to start looking at more value added approach to this communication. And this is where the BRON Investor Network app came. By the way, BRON is bridge, but in Swedish, bridge between companies and investors.
I love it. No, thank you for explaining that too, because BRON is it is a bridge. Now your logo makes a lot more sense too, because you've got that bridge in your B in the BRON, and I love it. It's a very meaningful thing because you are bridging two different worlds, and I think that most investors appreciate the fact that they can learn more about what they're throwing their money in.
100%. That's one of the, again, I keep talking the Robinhood generation. There are a lot of young people trading and they don't really know what they trade. They're buying Tesla, they're buying options on this and that. And the companies want to really reach out and educate these young people. They want to educate all investors, and they already produce a lot of information. And the only ones who see this information are the large investors. And because of full disclosure, this information is available to everyone, but no one knows how to access it. So part of the BRON mystique is we aggregate all this information. So we're like for example, an Expedia, but instead of aggregating travel information, we're aggregating publicly, information on public companies that can educate an individual on their particular company of interest.
I love it. Very cool stuff, honestly. So as you've jumped off on your own and you've been building this company and this product, you've already mentioned you're international with it. How you know what kind of challenges are you facing with this? Because every business has its challenges, but what are some things that you just didn't see coming?
Well, COVID, number one, obviously no, but outside of well, COVID was difficult because when you initially start a company, you've got to be
Yeah.
you've got face-to-face meetings, and I was traveling quite a bit right before COVID.
Yeah.
I was in China while COVID was going on in December,
Oh,
January of
wonderful.
2019 and 20. I was in Mexico, I was in the UK, France, I was all over the place, and so COVID really was a problem, and it
Yeah.
created, it kept me on the ground for almost 2 years. That was a
Right.
challenge. But again, as I mentioned to you, one of the things we were able to do early on was use the connections that I've had over the years and make connections with a sales channel, and a sales channel being stock exchanges who had the natural connections with all these companies.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
the challenge there is that it takes a very long time to nurture these relationships. But once
Sure.
they are nurtured, they're invaluable. They're priceless. And so that was the challenge, and to decide to take the long term approach to it,
Yeah.
as opposed to sort of willy nilly trying to get as many companies we can on, which probably
Totally.
would have been a little better from revenue, but it definitely we would have been way behind the eight ball now, because now that we have these relationships, things are moving much faster. So the challenge was
Love it.
taking the road less traveled, Todd. That's
Yeah.
basically the challenge.
Well, if you can finance it, it's always worth it, right? I mean, it's always worth it to have the best information possible. And sometimes when we try to shortcut because of lack of budget, it doesn't end up being as cool of a product as you wished it would be. So I think you made the right move. I think it sounds like it's been something that's definitely paid off.
Hopefully, yeah. It's been a great journey, and we're still small. We're still growing. There's still a lot. I mean, the opportunities are massive, because we haven't even 1% of what we should be. And so there's a
Right.
100,000 plus public companies around the world. There's 100 million investors. If you include China and India, there's 200 million investors. So
Wow.
there's a lot of opportunity.
A lot
I
of
mean,
work to do.
you have to think big, right? You can't think small. You got to think big, and that's what
Yeah.
we're trying to do.
I love it. I love it. Well, who in your circle of people that you communicate with and your peers, is there someone who's been kind of a mentor as you've made this transition from being the type of in the type of profession you were into starting your own business?
Yeah, as far as I wouldn't say there's been a mentor, but I think there's been a lot of people that I've relied on in my network and that I respect very
Right.
well. A lot of them are, former fund managers that have sort of, hey, do this, do that. But I got one guy who helped me sort of more internationally.
Yeah.
Is a friend who I've known for a very long time. A guy named Rupert Stebbings. He's been living in South America most of his career. He was part of the Colombian Stock Exchange, and he
Oh,
really
cool.
helped in some of the initial stages of working, how to work, how to start to negotiate with these exchanges, what to do. So I give a shout out to Rupert. He's a great guy, and
Love
he's
it.
looking for new opportunities now. And he's a very talented guy, and he was in finance 30 plus years, and so
Very
he's
cool.
somebody who sort of helped along. But I've had a lot of mentors throughout my life, a lot of mentors into this journey, and there's too many
Yeah.
to mention, not just one.
Awesome. Now I can appreciate that completely. I think we all are a creation of who the people around us are, and I think that it sounds like you've been around a lot of great people who have shaped the product. And really, the thing I love about people like you is that you have been in that role where you could see that there was a deficiency, there's a need for this information that you're now providing, and you're just expediting the process of information to people like you have been so that they can be more leveled up when they're trying to leverage their funds.
Absolutely, and that's again goes back to that word democratization, because it's not
Yeah.
just the old boy network. The regulations now state that full disclosure, et cetera. So we're hopefully, helping these companies, achieve this full disclosure, achieve this transparency that everyone
Love it.
tries to. And this word ESG is thrown around a lot. Um, and it's really the G of the ESG. It's really the G, which is
Right.
governance. That's the key to
Right.
any company. Okay, E and the S are fine. It makes people feel good, but without the G, your company doesn't perform, and your investors don't get paid. They don't earn.
Totally.
So that's really important part of what we're doing, I think.
Love it. I love it. Well, my goodness, Tom, I sure appreciate your time today. This has been very, very valuable to hear about your journey and what you've been doing to help this industry that you've been such a big part of your entire life. I mean, it honestly is a very cool story.
Thank you, Todd. Much appreciated. Thanks for your time. It's been great.
Well, thank you. And for those listening, this should be an inspiration to you. I mean, this literally is a classic example of someone scratching their own itch and building a business that solves a problem that they had in their previous work experience. Very, very cool stuff. Thank you, Tom. We look forward to catching up with you on the next episode.
Thanks, Todd.
Hey, welcome back. How did you like that episode? I personally loved it. I love hearing from founders who don't need to start a company. I mean, financially, he's good to go. But he saw that there was a problem. He saw that there was a need, and he solved it. I love that about Tom, and I love that about you, if that's you, having done that in your industry. There's a lot of ways to start a business, but one of the best is to do it in an industry you're very familiar with problems that you know how to solve, and other people you see are getting stuck trying to solve them. I love it. I love this episode. And if you have not shared this Growth and Scaling podcast with those around you, do it now. Click the share link. Share this out to people who need to hear it. We are out on a mission to solve the problem with founders and operators of businesses that are stuck. They don't know where to go on their next stage of growth. And we are here to help you. These episodes are designed around bringing in the best guests who help you see that you too can get to that next stage of growth by pulling yourself out and plugging the right people, processes, and tools in to get you to that next stage. So thanks so much for being here. Share this episode with anyone you can and look into being a part of our community. We are very active. We participate a lot. Our Captain's Council is a place you want to be. If you are on this operator journey, look for details in the comments below. Thanks for being here, and we can't wait to see you on the next episode.